Good Sunday morning, everyone. Welcome back to Weather on the Go, all your weather coverage. We have rounds of strong to severe storms throughout this week across various parts of the country, and then a tropical weather update. I will update you on the tropical system developing near the southeast coast later on this week, and then we'll look ahead to the Memorial Day weekend forecast with the temperature and precipitation trends as we go into this upcoming weekend. But looking at the infrared satellite imagery as of this morning, it is very calm, very quiet across the United States, in exception to the Pacific Northwest and the southern plains where we have some cloud cover and also some precipitation moving through as of this morning. And especially up here into the Pacific Northwest today, we have a rare type of slight risk for severe storms. That's a level 2 out of 5 on the scale. This does cover parts of Washington State, western parts there of Montana, central and northern Idaho, and then tailing its way south and westbound into eastern Oregon. This does include the Boise, Idaho region, Missoula there into western Montana, and the Spokane, Washington region as we go through later on today. And breaking down the hazards, these areas from Spokane down to Boise and then on up into the Missoula region, we could be seeing quarter to perhaps $half size hailstones as the primary threat for severe weather, followed by the threat for damaging winds up to 60 miles per hour later on today. And then as we go through the tornado outlook, that does look to play out as a less than 2% chance for tornadoes as we go across parts of the Pacific Northwest. So if there's any silver lining, the tornado threat is low across these regions. So breaking this down for you at the noon time frame early this afternoon, seeing very quiet conditions. We're heating up across the Pacific Northwest, but as we get through peak daytime heating late this afternoon, early this evening across these zones, we will be seeing some isolated to widely scattered showers and storms, and these could be producing this isolated to scattered severe weather events as well with damaging hail. We could also be seeing some damaging winds and possibly a tornado, although the tornado threat is very low. And then we'll start to see this system wind down through the late evening hours toward the midnight time frame as we see just lingering rain showers and rumbles of thunder, especially across northern Idaho, just north of the Boise region, getting towards your Monday morning. Then as we go into Monday, again, scattered across the United States, these summertime pockets of severe weather, just a level 1 of 5 on the scale, just a marginal risk up here into central Montana, also a marginal risk down here into the southern plains, including the Amarillo region, and across portions of the southeast from southeastern Alabama, southwestern Georgia into north central Florida. This does include the Orlando region as we go through Monday and into Tuesday, again across northwest Texas, the panhandle there from Amarillo down through Wichita Falls and into southwestern Oklahoma. This is on Tuesday. We have another level 1 out of 5 marginal risk for severe storms in that dark green shaded area. And taking you through those time frames right now, looking at the Monday time frame on May 22nd, we have a couple pockets of showers and storms, a couple areas up here into central Montana. We'll also watch this down here into the southern plains and also across Florida with mainly scattered coverage of storms. Not everybody will see severe weather, but if you get under one of these stronger cells, certainly they could produce some isolated large hailstones and also some damaging winds. And then the same thing holds true on Tuesday with these popcorn type of storms popping up with the heat of the afternoon across the west and the southern United States, mainly going through early this week. And with that said, the total rainfall accumulation from today all the way through the middle of the week on Wednesday, May 24th, the heaviest of the rain will be falling across the southeast in association with our next tropical system trying to develop across these areas, but that was something we'll continue to monitor. But if you guys are with me here on today's video, if you like it so far, be sure to press the like button, the thumbs up button down below the video. I definitely appreciate it. And also, if you have not yet subscribed to the channel, If you like detailed weather breakdowns on North America, including southern Canada, the United States, and the tropics, now is the time to press the subscribe button down below. It's free to do, and I post weather videos each and every morning at 9 a.m. Central Daylight Time, so I definitely appreciate all of the new subscribers out there as well. But looking through the week, the upper level pattern looks like this. Well, we have an upper level ridge across southern Canada and the northern United States. Underneath that, though, across the southeast, especially near Florida and the southeast coast, we will be seeing pressure falls and a trough moving in across these regions. But with the temperatures out there going through this week, on Monday, May 22nd, we will be heating up into the 80s across the majority of the Corn Belt and the central United States. That will continue, especially here into the Illinois Valley and parts of the Mississippi Valley, going through the middle of the week on Wednesday, May 24th. Widespread low to mid 80s, maybe even a couple of 90s starting to show up in a spot or two. And then that largely continues through the end of the week on Friday, May 26th, really across the very same areas, the central and southern plains and the Mississippi Valley, with those widespread 80s out there. But turning to your tropical weather update, over the next 48 hours, the National Hurricane Center has no tropical activity expected across the western Atlantic, the Caribbean, or the Gulf of Mexico. So that is some good news. However, looking at the sea surface temperature anomalies currently, it is boiling across the Gulf of Mexico and parts of the Caribbean, and it's very warm across the western tropical Atlantic as of this morning. So any system that develops near the coastline, whether it's off a cold front or off a trough that moves through, we definitely will be watching this. And looking at the end of May here, looking at the tropical cyclone points of origin, you can see that this is possible, looking back at climatology, that these systems can develop very close to the coastline here off of Florida or the Carolinas, getting into the end of May. And looking at a couple of the model runs here, the European model has backed off on the low pressure center closer to the coast and kind of moving it a little bit away from the coast during the middle of the week. The GFS a little bit further east than the European guidance, off the coast with the low over here into the western Atlantic. And the Icon model, the same thing, except it's a little bit stronger, but still off the coast. So the consensus here is that the tropical system, if it develops, will be well enough offshore where we don't have to deal with any of the wind component with this, but we will have to deal with the heavy rain. So looking at the total rainfall accumulation now through Sunday on May 28th, very heavy rain across portions of southeastern Alabama, southern Georgia into the Savannah, Georgia area, around 2 to 3 inches, and then down through the peninsula of Florida, Jacksonville, down here to the Fort Lauderdale region, Miami. We could be seeing widespread 3 to 6 inches worth of rain going through this upcoming weekend on Memorial Day weekend. So definitely keep an eye on this. And we have a marginal threat for some flash flooding across these areas into Alabama, southern Georgia, and much of Florida there Monday into Tuesday. And then a slight risk for flash flooding into southern Georgia and far northern Florida, including the Savannah, Georgia area and the Jacksonville Beach region, as we go into the middle of this week on Tuesday into Wednesday timeframe. So definitely keep an eye on that going through the week. Other than that, going into this upcoming holiday weekend on Memorial Day weekend itself, we have an omega blocking pattern that will be setting up as a stronger trough will be diving down here from the Aleutian Islands into the Pacific Northwest. We have a ridge of high pressure in between across the Great Plains, and another trough bringing cooler and more unsettled weather across the eastern third of the country on Saturday. And that really continues through the holiday itself on Monday, Memorial Day, on May 29th itself, with that omega blocking pattern. And what this blocking pattern does is exactly looks like an omega. You see how you have an upper level ridge across the middle of the country here, and then you have troughs on either side of the country, one over here in the Pacific Northwest, and then another one across the eastern third of the country over the East Coast or the Northeast. And that's exactly what we see. So how does this affect our temperatures this upcoming holiday weekend? So on Saturday, May 27th, we do have that upper level ridge spiking across the Great Plains. So temperatures will be largely unchanged during this time frame. Lots of 70s, lots of 80s, but look at either side of the country, we will be cooling off across across the Pacific Northwest there into British Columbia, Canada, down into Washington State, Oregon, and parts of Northern California back into the 50s and 60s. And the 50s are back across the Northeast as well on Saturday. That continues across those areas as we get into Sunday, as the heat does continue to build across especially the southern plains. And then the holiday itself, the heat builds across the middle of the country, but it remains cool with the 50s and 40s across the Northeast and the Pacific Northwest, with that omega blocking pattern going into Memorial Day itself. And looking at the precipitation outlook during the holiday weekend time frame, during the middle of the country, or over the middle of the country, we're going to be seeing more of a drier pattern set up underneath that upper level ridge. But where we see the wetter conditions will be underneath those troughs on either side of the country. So we have more wet conditions expected across the Pacific Northwest and the Intermountain West and parts of the Southeast. And then that could linger up there eventually into the I-95 corridor, getting into the end of May here. So tracking this on Saturday, we have to watch some of these storms developing across the northern plains and the central plains here from the Dakotas southbound into Nebraska and off the Front Range here into eastern Colorado. Some of these could be strong on Saturday, and again on Sunday we could have episodic regions of severe weather starting to develop going into this upcoming holiday weekend, and that will also carry into Monday, Memorial Day itself. So looking at my severe weather forecast, Memorial Day weekend, Saturday, Sunday, and Memorial Day itself on Monday, it is possible we see severe weather from the Dakotas all the way southward to North Texas here and everywhere in between there, including Nebraska, Kansas, and Oklahoma, and parts of the eastern Rockies as well. We'll definitely have to keep an eye on this and pinpoint what areas are at highest risk of severe weather coming up over the next few days. But looking at the total rainfall accumulation over the holiday weekend, it does look like some beneficial rains are expected across the middle of the country. And zooming it in here, most of this looks to fall across Nebraska, Kansas, and northwestern Oklahoma, areas that desperately need the rainfall. We could be seeing spots of over 1, if not over 2 inches of rain going through this weekend time frame. So definitely that is some good news, especially when looking at the drought monitor. Look at that. We have extreme and exceptional drought really centered across central Kansas and western Kansas, and that's the very area where we expect more heavy rainfall going into this upcoming holiday weekend. Unfortunately, it coincides with the holiday weekend, but we desperately need the rainfall, so we'll take any rain we can get across these regions. And across the I-95 corridor, much of New England, the Northeast, we will be seeing a soaking rain into this upcoming weekend as well. If you live in Boston, down into Hartford, Connecticut here, even Long Island, New York City, we are going to be seeing a lot of heavy rain, widespread 1 to 3 inches of rain can be expected here, with rain tapering off further west toward Pittsburgh and into parts of Maryland during the holiday weekend time frame. But beyond there, going into early June, the long range forecast here, this is your upper level pattern from at least June 30th through the 10th time frame. We have the ridge again building up to the north across Canada and the northern United States, and more troughing underneath that, starting down here across the desert southwest and the southern plains going through that period. And it does bring in the chances for precipitation back across the Pacific Northwest and much of the Great Plains. And that kind of lingers over across the Ohio Valley and parts of the Southeast at times through that June 10th time frame. And then looking at the surface base cape or instability during this time frame and pinpointing the areas of potential severe weather, it does look like we have to be concerned about that potentially across the Pacific Northwest at times around that June 3rd time frame, and much of the instability near the Gulf Coast here towards the Houston region, New Orleans, and parts of Florida during the first few days there of June. But then that slowly builds a little bit further north into the second week in June there around that June 10th time frame as we get into Texas, Oklahoma, and parts of the Mississippi Valley here. So that will be something to keep an eye on. So my severe weather forecast from June 3rd all the way through June 10th, I think it's possible we see severe weather from the Rockies here here into southeastern Wyoming, down through Colorado, including the Denver region, all the way south and east through the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex, Oklahoma City, getting in towards Wichita here, Little Rock, and then as far east as the Jackson, Mississippi area, and perhaps even the Birmingham, Tuscaloosa region as we go through that June 3rd through the June 10th timeframe. So this will be an area to keep an eye on, and this area could grow or could grow, could expand, and the intensity of the severe weather could go up depending on the storms that move through this region during that time frame. Well, if you want additional weather forecast updates here on this channel, press the description down below and follow me on Twitter at hweather420. I definitely appreciate it. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching today's video each and every morning. I know a lot of you guys like watching these videos. I definitely appreciate it. Remember to like the video down below, give it a thumbs up. Leave any comments, questions, and concerns below. I'll get to those later on today. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you're new, and hit the notification bell to get all of my daily weather forecast updates on this channel. Have a great Sunday, everybody. A great rest of your weekend, and I will see you all in the next video.